Okay, so it should have started recording. There we go. Okay, so I've just opened my level 1 ceiling plan, which you can see is not set up yet. So just so that it's clear for anyone who hasn't seen the previous video yet, I'll go back to the level 1 floor plan, where you can see that's all. I mean, it's not an amazing design, but it's there. So we can see the walls and everything, clearly. But if I go again to the level 1 ceiling plan, those things are not showing. And so this is probably a really good thing for everyone to see, because I think the level 2 ceiling plan that I showed you didn't look like this. It was set up a bit better. So firstly, I need to go to change the view range to get the walls to come up properly. So by scrolling down in the view properties there, we can of course find view range, click edit, and then check the cut plane height. So now I'm just going to go away. It's going to come back to that. So I think it's gone and done something strange. So I'll go back to edit. Yeah, okay. So there we've got the top. What's going on there? That can't be right. Top set to ground. Okay, so this is a bit of a weird error. Oh, now there. Sorry, that was me. So what happened there? And that's another thing that's good for you to see. I had the ceiling plan open, but I'd also then selected a view over in the left in properties. So that means what I'm getting in properties here is not the properties for my ceiling plan, it's the properties for this floor plan that's selected. So watch out for that. To make it give me the ceiling plan properties, I'm just going to click inside that view, and there we are. Now you can see it says ceiling plan. So watch out for that. And it's good that it happens, because there will be times when you just want to select a view and change its properties, like so. But again, if you want to make sure you've got the properties for the open view, just click anywhere in that view that's empty, so that you're not selecting something. And again, you can see I know that it's got the ceiling plan properties, because of course it says ceiling plan. So again, scrolling down, got view range, I'll click edit, and that's better. Okay, so now I've got the top is set to ground floor, which is still not very good, but I can change it now to what it should normally be, which is at least up to the level above. So I'm going to click show, and I know that some of you have spent a bit of time on this and tried to understand it, which is good. But if you still don't understand it completely, don't worry, because I've been doing this for 20 years and I still struggle to understand how view range works. I think I've finally got a handle on it, but again, it's not the most obvious thing. But it helps if you have that diagram open. So here you can see that number 1 at the top is the top. And so that is the maximum extent of what you will see. So here, if I set it to level 2, that means it will stop at that floor, the level above. So I'll set it to that, and then we'll see what that gives us. So I'm going to click apply, and then you'll see I get a warning because I didn't think about the view depth. So the other confusing thing when you're dealing with a ceiling plan is the view depth, because in a floor plan, the view depth is below the bottom. So the bottom you can see here is number 3, I think. Yeah, primary bottom. So then the view depth, which is number 6, is below the bottom in a floor plan. But in a ceiling plan, it's actually not shown here, but in a ceiling plan, the view depth is above the top. So the view depth is up here. And again, it's not labeled in this diagram. This diagram is for a floor plan. So we just need to be aware of that when we're working with ceiling plans. So the view depth needs to be at least as high as the top. So here it could be level above or higher. So it could be level, roof or parapet. But again, I'll just do it to level 2 for now, so you can see how that works. So I'll click apply. Now I can see my walls. but I can't see the edge of the floor. So there is an edge there. So remember, I cut the shaft around here somewhere. So I'll just click OK, and we'll move that section a little bit, and then there we are. Oh, no, I can actually see it. There's my, that's my floor. There's the shaft, and then next to it, yeah, there's the floor. So I'm just getting the floor. Oh yeah, because the bottom of the floor does come down. So I might go and just put something onto level 2, just to maybe make it a bit clearer how view range really works. So I'm going to put a component there, just floating inside that staircase. So a bed, that'll do. Okay, so I'm going to stick a bed in the stairs, in the stairwell. All right, not because I want a bed there, just so you can see. If I go back to the ceiling plan, that bed isn't showing. Right, so even though the bed sits exactly on level 2, right, so that's the height, and if we were to go to the section, we would see that. So there's my bed. Right, so the bed legs touch level 2. But again, when we go to the plan, not the floor plan, but to the ceiling plan, we can't see the bed. So coming back to the view range, I'm going to lift the view depth up by 100 mil. Hit apply. There's our bed. All right, so just by raising the view range slightly so that it's touching the bed, it doesn't need to go all the way around it, as long as it's touching it, that will then bring the bed into this view. Coming back to the view range again, so that's just the view depth, and notice how the bed is dashed. If I bring the top up the same way to 100 above level 2, now you can see it's solid. So that's how, that's what top does. So anything within the top range shows normally, in other words, with the normal line work. But if it's not within the top range or below the top, but still being picked up by the view depth, then again, it shows with dash lines. Right, so I'm not saying you need to have the bed showing or anything on the level above, but if you do want to see those things and also just get a better understanding how view range works, that should help you. But the main thing here is that we get the wall. So that's been done by, again, just bringing the top setting to the level above, and then again the view depth to the same setting. But then the other one I'm going to change is the cut plane. So at the moment I can't see the doors because the cut plane at 2300 or 2.3 meters is higher than my highest door. So my doors are probably about 2.1 meters high. So I'm going to lower the cut plane to 1800. And there we are, there are my doors. Okay, so to work with ceiling plans, you need to be confident and comfortable working with the view range settings usually. And so then now if I click here to select inside any of those spaces, I'm going to get the floor from the level above. So this is the level 2 floor. So we're looking up towards that level above. And so then to place some lights, I want to have a ceiling. So I'm going to go to, first I'm just going to go to a section, just check my heights. So I'm going to measure from the floor there up to the bottom of the floor above. So it's 39.45. Okay, so I'll just remember that figure, 39.45. Okay, so back to my ceiling plan. Then I'll go to ceiling. And then you've got here height offset from level. So there are two ways of doing it. You can either work down from the level above or work up from the level you're on. So I'm going to work up since I've got that measurement. So I know it was 39.45. Right, that was the height to the bottom of the floor that's above this space. Now I just want to make my ceiling 100 mil. or maybe I'll make it, I'll do it 100. Okay, so 3845 is 100 mil less than 3945. Okay, so that's going to be the height of my ceiling. Then I'm going to go to edit and just check my thickness. So at the moment it's 57 mil thick, this ceiling. I'm not going to worry about duplicating because I want all of my ceilings to change to 100 mil. So I'm just going to go to edit here and make the thickness there 90 and make this one 10. While I'm at it, you can see there the coarse scale fill pattern. I may as well fix that and make that the same as my wall. So I'll just make that solid fill. But this is a new ceiling, so I'm going to change the fill to white. Okay, so then I'll click OK, and you can see there automatic sealing would actually work here because you can see there it's highlighting those interior spaces with the red outline. But that would mean it would go around all of these funny curves that I've got, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to go instead to sketch sealing and then manually draw, or by picking these walls, the shape of the ceiling that I want. So if you just have one ceiling for an entire apartment, that's probably okay. These lines here just need to be flipped. So you should think about putting your ceilings just on the inside face of your walls. So think of it as a drop ceiling, one that drops down essentially inside your walls. Some of the walls may sit under the ceiling. So this curved wall here could sit underneath the ceiling. And that'd probably make sense because you probably don't want to have a ceiling that needs to be framed and built around that curve. But then you might want a ceiling that goes just through your main space and goes around things like bathrooms, and then you can potentially have a lower ceiling inside your bathrooms, and that's helpful for bulkheads and things like that to get services, and also just to make it a more practical space because bathrooms need to be well heated, and it's not nice when you have a really high ceiling in a bathroom that makes it more difficult to heat. So often you want a different ceiling for the bathroom. That's up to you though. I think for this project, you maybe don't have to get to that level of detail. So if you want to have your ceiling going across your bathroom as well, that's okay. All right, so I've got my ceiling there in the space where I want the lighting, and that's the important thing. And so now I will go and place some lights. So I'll just go place component, and then I've already got some lights loaded. And I could, of course, just use any of these. And I've done, several videos on lighting that you can all refer back to. We'll go, right through all these different light types. But I'm going to go and load a new one with load family. And I'll go to metric library and lighting and electrical and internal and just get one of these different lights that I haven't loaded yet. The arc glass one I found actually is pretty good. This pendant lamp arc glass LED. Oh, I have loaded that before. Okay, I thought I had. Anyhow, so where's it gone? Ah, yeah, now this is the other bug. So many little bugs in Revit. So you can see here that I'm trying to scroll down in this list in properties. I found that you can make it go further with a few little, if you push it a bit, like come back, scroll again. Sometimes goes a bit further, and then you can scroll back up and down, and can make it go a bit further. But it's again another one of these well-known issues that this panel has limits, and unfortunately that's going to come up all the time because you'll often load a lot of families into your projects, and you're going to hit that limit where it just won't go any further in the list. But I've shown you, I think, already how you can get around that problem. Go to edit type, and then you can get the full list from there. So here it is, pendant lamp arc glass. That's better. Okay, so with this family, and a lot of the newer families actually, the newer lighting families, you'll see firstly that you get different options to place your lights on in different ways. So the first option, that's the default option, unfortunately, because again, some of these developers, they really need to be, told how to do their job properly, because that's really silly. But they've just, again, left it like that because I think they just don't know any better. So it's on place on vertical face. Now, this sort of light would very rarely be used in that way, right? So it would let me place it on a wall, but it would just come straight out from the wall. And this is a pendant light. It's not made to do that. So you just got to remember, with these newer lights, if you know it's for a ceiling, change it to place on face. And there we are. So now it's going to let me place it onto my ceiling. So I've done that, and I can keep placing extra lights. So if you know you need a certain number of lights, just place them like this. Don't worry too much about the exact placement, because as I'm about to show you, it's easier than copying. So once you've got them placed like that, there are lots of tricks you can use to line them up, such as drawing a path with some detail lines and then making them follow that path, or using other methods similar to that. But what I want to show you really is that there are issues with copying, and that's why, again, we often look at those different approaches. Because again, if I select this light and then firstly we'll go to copy, pick a base point, take it across. Oh, now actually, sorry, this one's working because it's the new light. So that one's okay. So I'll go and get one of the other kinds of lights where we'll hopefully get this issue. So back to load family, and I'll get the downlights. Recess can. Right, so this is another one that's been loaded previously. So I've got to go and choose it from the list over here. Right, and I can this time. This one I can pick from there, so I don't have to go to edit type. But if I had to, no problem. I can always just go to edit type if necessary. Okay, so I'll put in a couple of these, maybe over the other side, so you can see them separately. So I know these, if I select one of them and then go to copy. Ah, now it's working. Okay, so look, I know that, yeah, sometimes they do work. How do you create your own circular lights? I'll show you that too. Okay, so I'm just going to have to go and get another kind of light to see if we can get this issue, because, yeah, just when you want it to not work, that's when it'll start behaving and work. We don't want it to do that. I want to get it to misbehave, which it will, usually when you don't want it to. Okay, so I'll put in the spotlight. Let's try that one. So if I try copying that, no, it's behaving too. So I think there was an update that went through with Revit recently, so maybe with the update it's been fixed. That's a shame. I'll see if I can just get one more light. Maybe if I get one of the really old ones, maybe that's why they might have fixed it with the new families. Here we go. This is an old one. Okay, so that's the recess can again, and let's try copying that. I bet it's going to work. Yeah, it's working. Okay, so unfortunately I can't show you the issue that you will have, which is that basically when you go to copy them, even though you might choose 2 points, it'll come up like that. So it'll tell you either that it can't create the second one, or that they're identical instances in the same place. So here, I'll do it again with this one. So if we go copy, and again, you try to click 2 points, right? And you may get this warning where it'll tell you there are identical instances in the same place. Now, that's actually not such a problem, because then I can just drag one of them away, and that solves it. But then it becomes more of an issue with tools like array. So if I use the array tool, say with this light here, then I'll go to, let's say, radial, and do a radial array. Okay, so I'll just put in, yeah, so there we are. You can see there it's straight away stopped working. So I'll go and do array again. And again, it's on radial. We'll go to, oh yeah, now I think it's because I went too fast. I'll go to a second, just take this center point down a bit and just come down a little bit. And again, now it's behaving. But then again, if you did get this issue where instead of giving you copies, it gives you that warning telling you that there are, again, identical instances in the same spot. You have to manually copy these things. And so there we can help to know that the rotate tool can be used to copy things. So there's a tick box to make it copy. So now if I rotate this, you can see there, it gives me a rotated copy and leaves the original. So that will give you all of the things that you want using the array tool. It just takes a bit longer. So that's one option. Now, but to make your own lights, that's a different thing again. So Tiffany, when you're saying a circular light, do you mean a circular light fitting or a series of lights in a circular pattern?
I've made a chandelier and I kind of want the lights to fit into that.
Ah, yeah, that's a different thing. Okay, so yeah, so what you've got to remember with light families, there can only be one emitter. In other words, one thing that emits light, one light source. So if you've made a chandelier, then you'll often need to have several lights inserted into that. Right, so what I'm going to just do is get a studio light, and then I'm going to turn that into a light bulb, and then copy it around. So yeah, it's a bit of a process, but that's what you need to do with your own, when you're making your own light families. It's usually a bit involved. So to get the studio light, I might just go and place one in here because I'll need some anyway. So just make sure if you haven't come across this one already, you should all know about the studio light. So I'm going to go to load family, and then you'll see here in this folder, there will be studio light. If you go to the default library, metric library, and then go to lighting, architectural, internal, there it is again. So I haven't even seen it yet, but I know it's here. Here it is, studio light. Okay, so it's one of those lights that is so necessary that it's in virtually every folder for light families. You should always be able to find a studio light. So it's already been loaded. I'm just going to overwrite the one I loaded earlier. And again, because it's been loaded before, I've still got to choose it from the list over here. Good old crazy Revit. And again, I can't get it into the list, so I've got to go to edit type and click on the family option up here to choose studio light. Okay, so I'm just going to place one in empty space there. Well, I may not even keep that, but this is just so I can select it and then go to edit family. Okay, so this is the light source family. And so you can see there it's got this, this is the light source, this big thing that looks like what's meant to look like a web, but who knows what it looks like really, the odd shape that it is. So you need to know where that is though. And so I'm going to go to the elevation view now and open up front. And you can see there it is again. So that big yellow thing, that is what the light comes from. Now I'm going to leave it on that distribution. So don't worry about needing to change any settings there. We'll leave that as, again, what's called a web distribution. That's fine. So really all I want to do here is make a light bulb. So I'm going to go to create and revolve, and then draw a circle. Oh, sorry, a semicircle. So drawing an arc there. And I'm going to draw just. I don't want to make this too complicated, but I think I have to show you something that's a little bit tricky, but yeah, I have to. Okay, so I'm going to draw an arc that is the size of the bulb, or half of the bulb. All right, so it's a semicircle, and I'll just close that with a line, so it's a perfect semicircle. Okay, so then I might select the arc and double check my radius. So, okay, so let me see the light bulb that I'm staring at right now. Looks like it's, what, let's say 5, it's quite a small one, so 5 centimeters across. So that means the radius is half of that, so 25 mil. Right, so this is going to give me a 5 centimeter wide sphere. So that's the first thing. Then comes the slightly tricky bit. We need to get this, make sure that this arc follows the light source. And so for that, I'm going to show you a little trick. I'm going to select the arc and then turn on the center mark visible option. So that's put the cross there that shows us where the center of this arc is. Now I'm going to change the scale just so that you can see those lines a little bit more clearly. So I've just made that 1 to 5. I don't like using thin lines here because without the line weights, it actually makes it harder to see these lines. So then I'm going to use the align tool and then zoom out and pick the reference plane, right, this dashed line here called light source elevation. So that reference plane sets the height of our light. So I'm going to select that first and then zoom back in and select the horizontal line in that center mark and then lock it. So what that's done is it's locked my light bulb essentially is now locked to that reference plane vertically. I don't care what happens horizontally. Well, horizontally we won't have any issues. Actually, we could lock that as well. If you want to, you can do that, but it's not such a problem. So to lock it lock it horizontally, just so you can see, I can choose this vertical reference plane and then zoom in again and make sure I get the vertical part of my center mark. And then again, lock it. Okay, so now to finish off my revolve, I have to draw an axis. So I'm going to draw, again, with axis line, a vertical line, just tracing that vertical reference plane. You can draw them over the profile, but it's usually better to draw it to one side so that you can see it clearly. So that's it. So now I will, again, I could lock the axis, I suppose. Yeah, do that. So I'll lock that as well. So I can always, again, align, lock the axis to the center line. We don't really need to lock that side of the arc, I don't think, or the side of the profile. Wouldn't hurt, but no, I won't worry. Okay, so now before I finish it, I'm going to then put a material on. So going to here, hit browse, and there you can see we've already got a glass material. So I might select that, right click, duplicate, and call it glass bulb. And then go to appearance, right click and replace, and go to appearance library, and then go to the glass folder, and you will see a stack of glass materials made just for this purpose to be light sources. So I'll just choose the luminous cream or translucent white, actually, might be good. Yeah, translucent white. Okay, so now back to the graphics tab. All I need to do is tick use render appearance, and that will pick up a lot of the good things like the color and especially the transparency. Done. Okay, so now I will click tick to finish, and I've got a little light bulb. Now, before I load this family back into my project, I need to do a couple more things. I'm going to save as, it's really important. So save as family. And again, save it to my own folder. So I go to lighting and, sorry, I use light fixtures. That's where I've been saving all my lights recently. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to call this CC, just because I know CC is one that I've made. And then little light bulb. Okay, and then before I load it into my project, I'm going to bring the brightness down because I know it's too bright. So to change settings like this that in a project you would get to by going to edit type, in the family where those type settings are actually made, just try to get used to this. It's in family types. And I know I've shown you this before, but it doesn't hurt to go over it again. So again, in this properties panel here, when you're in a family file, you'll always have this family types option. And as you use families more, you'll get more used to using that. So there, that's family types. And you can see down there, well, I've already put it down to 2000 lumens. That's actually not too bad. That's the 230 volt. Here, I can't stand having these other voltages, so I'm just going to delete these other types. Then I don't have to remember which one I've used, right? Because I'm going to have the one. So I've got 230 volt there as my only type, and I'm even going to give it a better name. I've probably had a bit of a whinge to you about this before. Voltages are not important for us. We only use a couple of different voltages in Australia anyway, and it has no effect on the way we work with the light. So you don't even need to know what the voltage is. And so here I'm just going to call this, bulb small. Right, so it's got my own name or the name that I've given it, and I know which one that is. And then we've got the initial intensity. That's the only setting we need to look at for the brightness. It's on 2000 lumens already, but I might bring that down to 1000 if there are going to be a few of them in a chandelier. Then, we probably want the setting to be a bit lower. It may even need to be lowered more, but we can do that in the project. So that's all done. I'll click save. So I know it can seem like a bit of work setting up a light family, but lights in the real world are complicated. So of course, in a 3D rendering program, they are going to be complicated as well. Oh, now you can see here as I'm placing this light, it's coming in now with the little light bulb, but then I've still got those other lines coming up, and that was from the original studio light. So I'll just show you how to get rid of those. It's fairly easy. So selecting that again, go back to edit family, and then you can see here in this view, the front view, I can see those big circle or big curves there. So I'm just going to delete those. Just pressing delete on the keyboard. And then there is also in the other elevation, in the left elevation, we should have the same thing again. Right, so the circle is there facing the other direction. So I'll delete that too. And just make sure there are no other lines. I think this is a connector. Yep, that's fine. And so I'll just check the 3D view and make sure they're all gone. Yes. Okay, so then we have a connector family, which is an electrical symbol. And I think I might just leave that one, even though, no, I was going to say we could scale it, but that's too involved. So I'll just save that as it is and load it back into the project and override existing version, and at least we'll take out A lot of those lines, the bigger circle is from the connector, and I don't want to go into that, so I'll leave that one. So so now, wherever the chandelier was, so this again is the ceiling plan. So then you could just copy several of these lights. So again, just say the chandelier was about here, and so you would then just use copy, or even just go to place component. All right, so there's my new light family, and put a few of them close together, like that. Sorry, I wanted one more. I'll do my little Led Zeppelin symbol. We don't know what I mean, but if you know what I mean, then well done. So that's from a certain album. You'll see that has this symbol. Anyhow, so there we are, and so if we go and put a camera view in there, and then start setting up that render, we can get a better idea how those bulbs are going to work. They're too low. You can see there, the position in plan was okay, but they're all very low, so I can always just select them now. So remember, in the family, it was above the ground, so that height has already been added, so they're probably about 1.5 meters off the ground. So here, whatever I add to this, or whatever I put in for that offset, is going to be added to that meter or so, maybe 2 meters that it is off the floor. So I'll make it, let's say 1,500. So that lifts them up. So far, gone a bit too far, so they've probably gone through the ceiling, or maybe they're just above the view, so I'll bring it back to, let's say, 1,000. Yep, so there they are. So again, if your chandelier was there, they'd be sitting inside it. And so it's probably not a bad idea to try to not really worry about light sources in the chandelier, or even just have the one. And so now, if I go to render, whoops, we can start to see how those lights work together. So, and the other option with the chandelier is to have a very simple setup. So even just what I've got there, where I've got a few lights, and not worrying about having the chandelier itself, and then get a photograph of the chandelier and overlay that on top of your perspective in Photoshop. Okay, so you can see they're working. Now the distribution actually is mostly down. So I might just show you with a chandelier, you may want the distribution to go up as well. So let's say you do want to change that. Now, because I've got these done in my own family, just to finish there, go back to Edit Family, select that web symbol, that's the light source, go to light source definition. I think we looked at this before. You can change to this spherical distribution. So I'll load that back in and overwrite, and then go to render again. It should be very different. Right, so now we're getting some light going up as well as down from those bulbs. Okay, I've got some glass there getting in the way that's making it look a bit odd, but there we go. You can see this working. So I'm just going to hide that glass and then just render without them. Rendering through transparent surfaces creates all sorts of unrelated issues, so just want to avoid that for now. Oh, right. So Tiffany's got it anyway. Anyhow, got the recording. Yeah. Okay. So anyhow, you can see there. So we've got, you know, these little light bulbs doing their work, and again, several of those. They could even be made smaller, but several of those in a chandelier would look really good. But again, don't go overboard. Often chandeliers, even if they're modelled perfectly and rendered with all of the right light setup, still won't look as good as a photograph of a chandelier that you can overlay in Photoshop. Anyhow, but that should do it. Don't want to go too far into lighting today anyway, but again, that was a good question Tiffany had about light, so it's good just to follow up on that. Otherwise, I think plenty for today. It's 4:30 anyway, so yeah, so I think that's more than enough. But I might just finish that recording.